Thanks a lot for watching all my videos here from Brussels this week. I'm really very excited to be back in Brussels. This was too long. I plan to come back more often because it's amazing and it's really wonderful here at the Place Luxembourg. I spent so many happy hours and so great memories, and I'm also full of energy in my second reincarnation as the President of European for Tax Reform and as advocate for EU enlargement. As Montenegro goes Europe and all the other things. I will now explain you all these beautiful activities which I plan for Brussels, and I hope that they will happen. And I will educate and explain you while I'm walking, talking to my hotel and showing you the city. Here the European Quarter, that's basically the heart of the European Parliament Quarter. Over there on the other side is the Schumann. I showed you that one already. I showed you the NATO headquarters. I think you have a good overview now, and I will explain you exactly what needs to happen now in the coming years in Brussels, the capital of the EU and of NATO. It is absolutely important. The most important reform is that the EU must join NATO, because this is the sign of statehood. This is the sign of the ability to join an alliance, a defense alliance, is a key parameter for statehood, and this is what we need. It's also making clear that all members should join NATO. Austria, I speak to you, Malta, Cyprus, Ireland, and all future members, especially, of course, then Serbia. This is very important. Serbia must reform its security service. The EU doesn't have the instruments to do that. Only NATO has, and only then they can join, of course, the European Union, because otherwise, as an unreformed state, it is impossible, and therefore it's necessary now to suspend the candidate status of Serbia in order to make clear that we support the good behavior of Bosnia and of Kosovo as NATO allies in the future, to invite them as EU candidate countries, as Bosnia is already, and of course to have the EU candidate status for Kosovo, and then the non-recognizing countries to recognize Kosovo, like Spain, Slovakia, Romania, Cyprus and Greece. This is absolutely unacceptable. There should be all the financial transfers of the EU under the recovery fund and the cohesion funds should be suspended for all non-recognizing countries of Kosovo. And so we pressure them and we ensure that this is happening, and this is the best way to do. And here we have then clarity, and we have also the new members of the EU, because that's on the same time also very important that the already existing NATO allies like Montenegro, North Macedonia and Albania to be very fast in the European Union, and that's what I'm calling here: Montenegro in the European Union, Albania in the European Union, and of course North Macedonia, and fast in 2024 they can already vote in the European Union. That's absolutely no problem. We have enough time for the regulatory legislative preparation, and this can be easily done. And of course that opens then the way for the next round of enlargement in 2029 for Kosovo, for Bosnia, and in case Serbia recognizes Kosovo, also for Serbia, and then obviously for Ukraine, Moldova and Georgia, and all of them to recognize Kosovo as well and join NATO before and adopt the euro, because it's also an economic reform agenda which I'm proposing, to have all these countries as well fast-track economically integrated in the European Union. That means we can immediately open the labor market of the European Union for all EU candidates. We can immediately adopt the euro in all countries of the EU candidate countries, and of course Poland, Hungary, Czech Republic, Sweden, Denmark, of course Romania, Bulgaria to join the Eurozone, and best before 2024. Yes, and all this is possible. It's not for sure that it happens because of our internal weaknesses, but it's absolutely possible to be done. Yeah? We have the euro in Croatia, why not in other countries? And of course they all have to be in OECD, visa waiver of the Americans, and in Schengen obviously, and it's gonna happen. And Schengen membership for Romania, Bulgaria, absolutely, immediately, and no to the Austrian visa. I think I made that visa veto. I made that very clear. So that's a reform agenda of the opening of NATO and enlargement, and obviously Ukraine must be in NATO as a free and independent country. Maybe we cannot recover all the territories lost in 2014, but we can recover all the territory lost in 2022. And then this Ukraine, built on the Western German role model, can join the European Union and can join NATO first of all as part of the peace deal in 2023. Not peace deal, that's too much said, an armistice deal, because once Ukraine liberated in the 2020 lines February in NATO, and then we can the war can stop, because Russia is basically militarily and then also politically defeated by NATO integration and by EU perspective, and then Ukraine can adopt the euro as well, and so we can fast track reconstruct Ukraine, and that's the much better way. And this way, with NATO membership of the EU and of course the attached opening to the West, because what we ultimately very fast need as well is the conclusion of all these 10 big free trade agreements which we have not concluded in the last years, that we should have done already when I was working in Brussels in the 98 to 99 to 2004 Parliament time. We should have done that already. That's the free trade agreement with the Americas, with the USA, with Mercosur, with African Union, with India, with Pakistan, with Australia, with New Zealand, with the ASEAN countries, mainly Indonesia and the Philippines, and with the Gulf Cooperation Council, and with Uzbekistan. To get this done, obviously Uzbekistan should be in the World Trade Organization, the same like Serbia, Bosnia and Kosovo and Azerbaijan and Lebanon and Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan, but this is something which can be going parallel obviously in that form and manner. And what else needs to be done is of course parallel to open the OECD as a fighting organization of the Union of Democracies against BRICS and the Russian Chinese world, where they do a counter-strike against us. We have to do a counter-strike globally by opening the OECD for Brazil, Argentina, South Korea, South Africa, and of course India and other countries, because they have to be broken out of the BRICS world, and we have to be more open, and we have to reform the West and unite the West in that one. So that's the logic here with the OECD and also the counter-strike. I think I was here for that mainly. That was the invitation. Thanks a lot to the organizers, because I made it very clear that we need a counter-strike, not to attack Russia. I'm not in favor of that. You know, I never said that, and I'm not responsible for World War III. No. It's all very logically. There will be no World War III, there will be no nuclear escalation, but we need to encourage and foster the independence movements inside the Russian Federation. That's an evil federation. We don't like that federation. They must be defeated. And how to defeat them is obviously we encourage all this current independence movement from Chechnya to Kalmykia, to Karelia, to Ingria. I learned many of them now. And there is from Sakra, from Yakutia, from Buryatia, and all this independence movement must have regular congresses, a regular meeting process here in Brussels, in Washington, in the European Union capitals. Every politician in Europe must learn the name of the future independent states of the ex-Russian Federation, and we need to learn and get acquainted and prepare ourselves. But how can we effectively claim that we can integrate them if we are not able to integrate Kosovo, recognize Kosovo, integrate Montenegro, integrate Albania? This is and integrate, of course, Ukraine. Because how can we even dream about somehow reordering the future ex-Russian space if we not even can organize the present ex-Yugoslavian and present ex-Soviet space? And obviously not everybody can join the European Union. I'm not saying for Uzbekistan, but they can form a own Northwestern Asian Federation, like we have ASEAN, the equivalent. Yeah? And then Uzbekistan and also the whole Arab world and not the whole Middle East and these countries they can work in that association, but very closely connected with Europe, of course, in terms of Council of Europe, in terms of OSCE, in terms of trade agreements and economic agreements and of investment partnerships and all this regional cooperation agenda, which we have so successfully launched under the guidance of Dr. Busek. This can be done further to the east, of course, in cooperation with European norms, regulations, European democracy, European human rights, European values. Yeah? And that's something we need to prepare, because the Russians are also doing it with us. They are undermining us in Scotland, in about Catalonia, and then the Spanish get crazy and don't recognize Kosovo because of it. But we must be ready for a counter narrative, a counter strike, and that's why I'm here. And I make that very clear. We should officially also foster the independence movement of all these 34 new states to emerge out of Russia, and don't be surprised if it happens. Of course, I cannot guarantee that it happens, nobody can, but it's entirely possible, and why shouldn't we do that, yeah? When the other side does it as well, and I'm absolutely for that. Free Kalmykia, free Astrakhan, and free Dagestan, and free Chechnya, and free Balkaria, and free Cherkessia, and free Ingria, and free Kuban. Absolutely, I'm in favor, and that's very good, but it's just one part of the agenda. We must do our homework in terms of opening our trade network to the free world. We must enlarge NATO, EU, OECD, Schengen, the Eurozone, and the WTO, and the OECD, and the OSCE, and all these organizations. We must be more proactive, and we must be more united as well in terms of our energy system, in terms of our infrastructure system, in terms of our debt-funded infrastructure, jointly and united. Yeah? Because it must be like this, that we basically do this more united. The energy issues, the infrastructure issues with common debt. And that's what I'm calling the whole week. We must have common military procurement, we must have common debt in the European Union. We must be able to fund, I'm just walking here, a 2000 billion package of common debt. And this is important to build the infrastructure in energy, in highways, in railways, and in ports, and all other infrastructure aspects, and they must be done together. And that's the way. I'm now saying goodbye to the European Parliament area and heading into the city, because that's why I have the hotel on my last night here. But what I need, what I propose is basically this big debt-funded package. That means 2,000 billion to fund the interconnectivity east in terms of digital infrastructure, of course, railway, fast railway, and also on one European united system of railways, and obviously in energy, and also have a common energy union and a common labor market. And that's, you know, all these dreams of the future until Vladivostok, it's all nice. We can do that with the new independent states of the former Russian Empire, but first of all we need to be much more united ourselves. This is the big problem we have here, and we have not achieved it. We have failed in the last years under Merkel to unite in terms of the euro, in terms of Schengen, in terms of the energy, in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of the debt. At least in the last time in the debt there was some progress, and it's absolutely good what we did in the corona, but it was mostly on the southern European countries, and we have not built the infrastructure in Romania, Bulgaria, and in the Western Balkans, and in Ukraine, which I'm calling since 2016 that we need to do here more, and significantly more, and we have not done that, and that's why we have this war ultimately, because we have not armed Ukraine, we have not connected Ukraine, we have basically rejected Ukraine's EU ambition and NATO ambition, and then Putin has seen this weakness, and he has put his finger in the wound of the European weakness and divisions, and he is fooling that with all his campaigns for Catalonia, Scotland, but also our internal divisions with not joining the Eurozone, Poland, Denmark, and all this lack of common defense project, because obviously we need a Frontex which is well funded and has tanks and airplanes and ships and a surveillance mechanism and the authority in all aspects to be successful. Because if we don't have that, it's obviously very, very, we are divided. And I read, the only hope we have is a strong America to be our friend, and we have a friend now in America, but obviously he is not his task to unite Europe. we have an ally, but we in ourselves, at our own strength, fiscally and militarily, and from our own will for unity, we must also continue and be able. We cannot be like children who need daddy always. You know, I'm very pro-American in terms of a free trade agreement, the EU should join NATO, but our basic homework of fiscal unity, of political unity, of institutional unity in Europe, we have to do ourselves. And if the French go that way and the Germans that way and the Polish the other way and the British leave, and obviously the British have to return, and that's why we need the free trade agreement with America. That's why we need to join officially NATO. That's why we need the Balkans and Ukraine in, and we need to be a much more improved European Union, which is attractive as well for the United Kingdom to return. And this is the agenda of reform, and this is what we need. Just when I podcast while I'm walking, I could also create a traffic accident that I don't want. But it's very, very beautiful here, walking into the city center, and that's what I'm proposing. That's the agenda for the return of the United Kingdom in 2029. And of course they have to adopt also the euro before, because we will not take half in, half out. The United Kingdom, another horse, right? And of course we have to be a more competitive union. If you see the success of Romania now, from 37 to 300 billion in 20 years, this is enormous success. The next time somebody says that Romania is not a success in the EU and NATO, I will slap his face, because this is really completely unacceptable. Obviously it's a big success, and obviously we can be all very proud to be part of that, and that's a wonderful success story, and so it is for Bulgaria as well. And by the way, all the 6 Western Balkan countries are also enormously successful, all the countries. Yugoslavia was a disaster, the Soviet Union is a disaster. Now, after the breakup of these terrorist entities, the countries have of course had a tragic, violent phase, but they are now reconstituted as independent countries, and all will be reunited inside the federal structure of the European Union and the Defense Alliance, NATO, and the OECD, and all other institutions we have, from the Euro to Schengen, and that works much better. And such a future is also totally possible for the terrorist federation Russia to be dissolved, dismantled, then dismantle itself, basically, that's a better way to formulate it, and then to be step by step integrated, not all in the European Union, some will be in the so-called Northwestern Asian Union, like ASEAN, the Association of Southeastern Asian States, ASEAN, and the Association of Northwestern States. That is absolutely possible, so I don't think the EU is going to expand to Vladivostok, just to answer that, but it will be somewhere a choice of all these new states to decide to go into the European Union or into the Association of Northwestern Asian States, and that we will see over time. But first we have to actively support and encourage the breakup of these countries in the coming of this Russian Federation, because it's a terrorist organization, it's a horrible terrorist organization, and obviously it's not needed. Look, here it's very nice, very beautiful, a lot of traffic here, and I'm really enthusiastic about my return to Brussels. I like it a lot, and I lived so happily here 6 happy years at the beginning of my work career. Now in 2023 to be back, it is very, very interesting. I like it a lot. I feel full of nostalgia for my years from 98 to 2004, when I supported the enlargement phase, and this is such a wonderful activity to be involved in. And when you see now 20 years later how successful Romania, Bulgaria and the new countries are, how Poland is a strong nation which is able to defend Ukraine and contribute to the liberation so much, because they had all this time to prepare, to accumulate. They always told me one time Russia will come back, and they were right, and so they are now able, as a rich and successful nation, to contribute decisively to the victory of Ukraine. And of course that fills me with pride that I could contribute to the integration of Poland in the EU back then, and that was such a wise decision. And also Bulgaria and Romania in the EU was a wonderful, and in NATO was a wonderful decision. And of course George Bush has overseen all these enlargement years, and he is still to this day not taken very seriously in the European Union, but he was a great pro-European American president, and we can be very proud of them. Yes. Now we are here, 2023. I'm walking you through some of these most beautiful parts of Brussels. Here, this was the European quarter, and here I'm in the royal area. This is the King's Palace, the Palais Royal, and I will show you some of these amazing central parts of Belgium on my little guided tour and talking you through these enlargement aspects. And now, you know, we have of course the opportunity to repeat the success of the 2000s with the integration of 9 new countries in the European Union, from Ukraine to Albania and from Kosovo to Bosnia, and that's exactly what we will do. And you will see, it will be extremely successful. And with the dismantlement of Russia and our victory in Ukraine, another 30 years of successful globalization will be ushered in the institutional framework of the WTO and the OECD, of course, as the union of the market democracies, and the World Trade Organization. That will be extremely successful, and it will be wonderful. We will bring the world GDP from the present 100 trillion to another, I hope we will reach 400 trillion in the year 2050, another quadrupling of the world GDP in the next 30 years, with lifting all this enormous potential of the new nations of Russia and having no enemy anymore by the defeat of Russia. That will be a wonderful future ahead. And this will be the next phase of globalization. And we don't need Mr. Karas to protect us from globalization, or we don't need Europe to protect us from globalization, because globalization is something wonderful, because it's basically the march of freedom of the people of the world who escaped the socialist shackles of the Soviet Union and of Soviet Union imposed socialism. And this is what has led to, there's a police, this is the Royal Palace, and that's the Royal Park. In my youth, and over there are the Belgian institutions. He has many of the embassies, and there is this wonderful park. I was jogging here in my youth, in the years, or in my 30s, basically, not youth. Youth I spent in Linz and then in Vienna for studying. But in my 30s, I had the honor and opportunity as my first professional assignment to spend 6 years in Brussels from 98 to 2004. And that was really wonderful. I was first in that department on the other side in Rue de Namur. It was really wonderful, really great time. And we had great parties and great action. Yeah, it was very good. I was jogging here in the morning in these years, and it was very wonderful. That's the Royal Palace. How wonderful it is, yeah. The park, the institutions. This was where I spent my first professional years before I moved to Kosovo for 3 years, and then to Albania for 6 years, then back 2.5 years to Kosovo, and then I spent 4 years in Ukraine, and now 2 years back in Vienna. And I'm happy that I have this opportunity to be in Brussels here. And here they have a lot of great buildings. The history of Belgium, of course, complicated, and the reality complicated. As similar as Macedonia, it's of course a bi-ethnical country with a complex power sharing agreement. But as I've shown you, it's working, and it will work as well in Macedonia, inside NATO already, a big achievement, and inside the European Union. Yeah, the next 30 years of global prosperity will be ushered in by the defeat of Russia, and China will watch very carefully. I'm not calling for the defeat and breakup of China. You see that on my podcast. I think we should reach a new understanding for a federal free China, and they will see that once they have done a war of aggression, like the Russians, they will be dismantled. I think that message will not get lost on the Chinese authorities and the political establishment. They can choose aggression with the punishment of dismantlement following suit, or they can choose to join the free world in OECD as a free federal China. And as a free federal China, it's absolutely possible to have Taiwan reintegrated in a free federal market economy of China. And if they don't want, they want to go the Russian way, then the Russian destiny of dismantlement into 34 states is ahead for the Chinese as well. And that will be in the future. Maybe it's possible, you know. I'm not advocating for that. I'm advocating for a partnership with China to defeat Russia. That's how we won the Cold War, in a partnership with the Chinese authorities. We have decided to do that, and it was very, very good. Actually, just to clarify, if you know the Chinese history, in 79 the Chinese, they have broken with the Soviet Union already with the invasion of the Czechoslovakia. Then there was a war in Russia, Soviet Union and China, and then they have been basically enemies, and then China was opened by Nixon, and then gradually the Chinese, there was also the intervention in Vietnam, but then from 79, after all these internal troubles of China, they have been a secret ally of the West, and they were decisively defeating the Soviet Union because they were supplying arms to China, to Afghanistan resistance, and they were helping us everywhere, and we were helping them to economically develop, not we, but the Americans mainly, but also the Europeans. And so gradually this was a decisive factor, together with the end of with the oil glut, because as a revenge to what they have done to here is very beautiful. I like it very much. This is the back side of the Royal Palace. Here everything is, of course, many monuments of Belgian history, which I don't know now by heart. I lost a little bit the update. That's the Rue de Namur, where I once lived. That's the exit road to Namur, and I lived in the apartment on the other side. That was really cool times. Rue de Namur. Very beautiful here. Yes, this is the story with China. So we should need a kind of, and that's what the Europeans anyhow proposing, but the Americans are now very keen to fight China, and that's a completely fallacy, because we shouldn't offend the Chinese. We have one country which is with tanks in another country, that's Russia, and we must dismantle and defeat Russia and liberate Ukraine. That's the absolute priority at the moment, and that's what I'm advocating for. Yeah, that's Rue de Namur, where I live. They are here. This is the quarter, and now I'm going towards this. Yeah, I see, of course, the public transport. I cannot use it very well because my Klima ticket is not working here. This is very annoying, because they always say we should use public transport. But again, I was often forced today to use the taxi because it was simply not easy for me to understand how to pay for public transport. Google is now allowing you to understand it very well. It's getting really cold. Yeah, this is very nice here. Very good. Very good for Hollywood. This is really very beautiful. You see here, this is the Grand Place over there. And I have to check, it's very beautiful here, but I don't want to be crushed by any car. Here there's nothing coming. Very good. And here I can show you. Very good. Whoa! This is very good. This is basically the way I walked to the city when I was living here in that years. It's very beautiful. I forgot all the monuments names, probably I never knew them. I apologize. Your humble podcaster is not the best informed, but this is the opening here of this beautiful, amazing convention center. And here you see the walk to the city. This is where the Gare Centrale is, and you see here the beautiful places and this is really very good. Yeah, this is the Palais Royal, the Garden Royal. A very nice evening atmosphere. Music is played, and how beautiful it is. Yeah, that's really very nice. This is the way I walked to the city in the years I was living here. Yeah, how nice. They have this labyrinth here. This is very nice. Oh, how beautiful it is. Yeah. Very good. Very good. I really like it a lot. Yes, this is the European reform agenda in most of its details. I think I'm very clear what we need to do. And from the whole enlargement agenda, obviously, for the friends from the ex-Russian states, I have also outlined the enlargement agenda for the Regional Cooperation Council. That's also very important because not everybody can join immediately the EU. You know? You need to prepare them, you need to have regional cooperation on a prior accession level. And for that one, we have the Central European Free Trade Agreement, we have the Regional Cooperation Council, the Energy Community, the Transport Community, the security arrangements for Southeastern Europe are easily to be transferred to the CIS and to the ex-Soviet and ex-Russian. And as we now talk about ex-Yugoslavia, ex-Soviet, we can talk about the ex-Russian region very soon. And it will be a much better world. And that's basically what I'm propagating. That was why I was invited to speak here. And I hope it was good. I will continue this campaign and I will work intensively, like with the same power like I remember in '96. I came here as a student representative already before '96. Yeah, I was a chairman of EDS, but also I was very active these years for propagating enlargement, and the same I do now with the 9 new countries. But even then, you know, if some of the ex-Russian republics want to join the European Union and NATO, as the representatives made it very clear, they are welcome. Why not to have 50 states like the United States? What's wrong with that? I can see nothing wrong with that. And also I'm very happy that Brussels has developed so well in the last years, because in the year where I was here, it was really still astonishing poor, and I didn't like that. It was not good. And now with enlargement and with this capital transforming itself into a globalization trade center, the center of NATO, the center of the EU, this whole city has really tremendously transformed itself to a much better, richer city. Of course, a lot of international stuff here, but it's also the center of the ancient trading routes of the Atlantic. And once the French have stopped their evil protectionism and we have opened up and we overcame populism and protectionism of the last years, Belgium will be a much richer and better place. Yeah? And it's already happening. And that's really very good. And that's true for Skopje, that's true for Macedonia, that's true for Montenegro. A much better world is possible, and it will be a much more open Europe, a much stronger Europe, but not to dominate anybody, but offer to the world in terms of regulatory and similar alignment. And so that's, I think, what Pax Europiana is about. Yeah? And I, with the enthusiasm of this 25-year-old student representative, now turned 54-old European activist, I'm just advocating for the same. This is where I came from. Now I walked up here. This is where you see the beauty of the city. This is the Royal Palace up there. And here, this is the walk here. It's very beautiful. And I'm now entering. Now I have to take a hat because it's a bit cold. Yeah, my head is better now. Yeah, this is the old town of Brussels, which I'm gradually getting into it. It's very beautiful. It's really very nice here. This is now this beautiful center where I have rented my last to the hotel for tonight, and tomorrow I head back to Vienna to continue my campaign for United Europe, and that's exactly what I'm gonna do. So here we are, and here this is the entry. I made already one video about that one. We have now made beautiful what I wanted to say, beautiful that was what I wanted to say, beautiful pedestrian area. It's pedestrianized, everything, that's very good. And here you see how it is, very beautiful, and it's a very nice city now. I really love to be here, but to live here, you know, it's expensive, and so you need obviously, Vienna is also expensive. But I want to change Austria so much because it's a real problem. Austria is now doing all the things wrong, aligning with Orban and being pro-Russian, not joining the NATO training, the EU training mission for Ukraine, and not supplying weapons to Ukraine in alliance with this axis with Hungary. That's of course a big problem. And also vetoing the Schengen accession. That's all very big intrigue by Orban and Putin and Vucic and Nehammer. It's all a big problem. Yeah, I'm very upset by this, and it will not hold. It will not hold. I'm sure about it. Yeah. Yes, in this crisis we are today, and Austria must change. I will make another petition about Austria to join the nuclear power, to keep the Austrian steel industry running and manage the climate transition, and also Austria to join NATO. This is very important, and to open our labor market to all EU candidate countries. This is already up and running, and then obviously I will promote Austria to join NATO, the opening of the EU labor market, the free trade with the European Union and the USA. Very good. And then the fourth one is nuclear power for Upper Austria, and of course the hydropower Hainburg, the big water power project downstream from Vienna, because downstream from Vienna we of course need the Lobau tunnel. That's very important, the eastern highway ring of Vienna. We need also to have the third runway for Schwechat, that's the Vienna airport, and we need also all this infrastructure, interconnectivity east, and also we need in Hainburg hydropower station. We need to lift the gas resources of the Austrian so-called Wine quarter in Lower Austria, and also in Upper Austria we found gas, so all this must be lifted. And also we must cover the Alps with wind and solar in the terawatt level. That's of course not always very popular, none of that is popular, but all of that is necessary, because economically Europe must produce the energy it needs ourselves, and we can do that. And we cannot say basically, oh, the energy is for the others, we just import it. That's economically stupid. That's also from all infrastructure system stupid. Look how beautiful that all is. So we need, of course, very decisively to change our energy system to win the struggle for the climate change. That's very important. And of course we need to use our land wisely, because the same ones who have talked about climate change but did not do anything, because they stopped our nuclear and solar and wind project, because they claim they want to protect the land. Yeah? This is the pure populism, because of course we need to use our land wisely, and especially for energy and for agricultural production. But some of our, unfortunately, green populists want to everything, but don't explain how that can happen. So I explain, it's something very funny. We want to limit the usage of our land. Yeah, that's something I cannot even explain in English, but it's pure nonsensical populism. Because obviously for climate change in the alternative industry, renewable industry, we need to build more hydropowers, We need more wind turbines in the Alps and everywhere. And of course we need to cover a lot of land with solar panels. It's entirely nonsensical to do it any way, otherwise it can never work. Of course we need nuclear power. And so our enemy is not that we lose more land, we have to use it better. We don't lose land, we must use it. Yeah? This is of course very important. And we must open to the world. And here this ancient city with its manifest destiny of openness to the world and trade from Spain to the Atlantics to the North Sea. That's obviously what Brussels is about. Yeah? How can such buildings be built in the 17th century? Yeah? How can such prosperity develop if not for trade? These are all the houses of trading families who had networks from America to Asia to Africa, and Brussels was one of the center of the first globalization. When you see here, the buildings were done in the 17th century. That was already a rich place back then. So obviously trade matters, openness matters. We have to fight xenophobia and protectionism. We have to fight anti-Semitism and anti-Americanism. We have to overcome all our original sins, which we have so many, like protectionism, xenophobia, anti-Semitism and anti-Americanism. And this must be fought. This must be fought. And here in Brussels, I can just call for decency. The agenda is clear. I have outlined it. Of course, we also need lower taxes, and it's all possible. You can say, oh, why he wants to spend 2,000 billion of euros on the EU level and he wants to lower taxes. Obviously, we can have a unified VAT system. We can have of 20%. We can have 15% corporation tax unified in Europe. We can have 15% income tax. And of course, we need to have a higher wealth tax and a higher property tax. Yeah? Because property must be taxed and wealth must be taxed. Yeah? Wealth increase. Yeah? This is all fine, but not income, not profit too high. 15% is enough. And that here, actually, I had many evening events here in these places. I liked it a lot. Yeah, this was a wonderful. It's a wonderful atmosphere here in Brussels. I'm really happy to be back and to show you all these wonderful places. It's so nice. It's a very special place square. The atmosphere here this evening is very unique, and I'm really very happy to be here in this wonderful place at this wonderful point of time, and to call for openness as the key for prosperity and for European unity as an answer to the Russian war and for success of our global institutional framework. But it has to change. Yeah? We have to do some things better. The things we have not done the last 20 years in terms of WTO, OECD enlargement, they are of course, and NATO and EU enlargement, but also the UN reform. It was never good to give the UN security seat of the Soviet Union to the Russian Federation, but we did it to appease Russia, and they have done only nonsense with that, and Putin basically took Russia hostage, and he had then the security seat, and he did only harm to the world. So the UN must be reformed, and here it's very clear what needs to be done. It's very simple. We have America inside, China inside, the European Union of course inside. They must get the seat of the French. And then we have the UK can continue for some time, but also the UK has to lose that seat, because that will be part of the membership of the European Union, because we only need one seat. Yeah? And the African Union needs another seat. ASEAN needs a seat, obviously, in the Security Council. And the Organization of American States needs a seat. Yeah? That's very clearly the case. So 2 for the Americas, 1 for Africa, 1 for Europe, and then, of course, 1 for India and 1 for India can take the seat of the Russian, and then we have 1 for ASEAN, 1 for China, so it's 3. It's 2 in the Americas, 5, 1 for Africa, it's 6, and then we have ASEAN must be enlarged, obviously, with Japan and Australia, South Korea to join ASEAN. And this new federation which I'm proposing is, of course, the Association of Northwestern States of Asia, where all the ex-Russian republics east of the Ural, and obviously all the Central Asian republics and all the Middle East will be inside. And that is the way with these 8 regions. If I make 4 5, 6, 8, yeah, 4 in Asia and 1 in Europe, 1 in Africa and 2 in the Americas. That's 8, and this 8 Security Council seats. Now that's for the future, but in the short term we simply can do it like this, that we have then the Indian seat will be taken over by the Russian seat will be taken over by India. So I'm calling very simply for India to take the seat of Russia, get the seat of Russia, because there's no other need for Russia as a terrorist organization to have a seat in the UN Security Council. You cannot be the rule breaker and the rule giver at once. And here I'm very happy to see the Albanian flag. That makes me very happy. That is fantastic. I'm very happy for that. Look at that, that's amazing. There's the Albanian flag in the middle of Brussels, and this place is amazing. I'm so happy I found now this Albanian Kosovo shop. This is something very special. Yeah, wow. This is the Belgium House of Albanian Culture. Wow, I didn't know that something like this exists. Yeah, that fascinates me now completely, and I'm totally amazed, and I will visit this house now. I don't know why they have Che Guevara here, but they have Albania from air, Kosovo from air. I don't know why Che Guevara is here now, but that's something else. That's really fantastic. Albania in Brussels, that gives me a very good time. I'm very happy now. I say goodbye. I hope I was interesting for you. More to come from Brussels, from Pax Europiana in the coming days. Bye.